The chill of the morning air pressed against Emily's skin as she hurried through the narrow alley, the click of her boots against the cracked pavement echoing in the otherwise quiet street. Her breath came in short, uneven bursts. She had to hurry. Her life depended on it. The music box she clutched in her hands felt unnaturally heavy, as though the fragile wooden case held more than just memories, more than just the tunes it once played. The shopkeeper had told her that he couldn't offer much. The box was old, worn, and had little value in today's world. Yet, when Emily opened the box one last time before leaving, the faded photograph inside caught her breath. She remembered the smile on the face of the woman in the picture. Her grandmother, whose laugh still echoed in Emily's memory, a warm sound, full of life and love. The box had been her most cherished possession, passed down for generations. But now, in the face of mounting debts, Emily had no choice. She could feel the pang of guilt deep within her gut as she passed the old bookshop, now boarded up, its windows covered with layers of dust and neglect. The familiar smell of old pages and ink had been replaced by the bitter scent of loss. She didn't have time to mourn her past. Not now. At the end of the alley, a small, crumbling storefront with a crooked sign caught her eye. The pawn shop. She had been here before, countless times. Always coming, always leaving empty-handed. But today, there was something different in the air. The door creaked as Emily pushed it open, the bell overhead ringing a sharp, thin sound. The shopkeeper, a hunched man with graying hair and thick glasses, looked up from behind a cluttered counter. His eyes barely focused on her, but he noticed the box. He always noticed the things of value. "You selling that?" the shopkeeper asked, his voice gravelly. Emily nodded slowly. Her fingers tightened around the box. She was certain now, there was no turning back. "I need the money," she said quietly. The shopkeeper eyed her with a mixture of curiosity and disinterest. He wiped his hands on his apron and shuffled around the counter, taking the box from her hands. He opened the delicate latch with care, his fingers grazing the worn surface. A soft tune began to play, its melody faint and strained but still hauntingly beautiful. His eyes narrowed, studying the craftsmanship. "Old," he muttered. "Not worth much, though. People don't buy things like this anymore." He glanced at her again, his gaze hardening. "But you're in a hurry, aren't you?" Emily's mouth felt dry. She could feel her heartbeat in her throat. "Please," she urged. "I'll take whatever you can offer. I need to pay the bills. I can't afford to keep it anymore." The shopkeeper paused, his fingers brushing against the photo that had been hidden beneath the lid. Something in his expression changed. There was a flicker of recognition, of something he wasn't prepared for. But he quickly masked it, slipping the photograph back under the lid as if nothing had happened. "Fine," he said, his voice a little softer now. "I'll give you $100. Take it or leave it." $100. The price was low, but it was something. She could make it through the next few weeks with that money. She had to take it. She nodded and pushed the box toward him. "I'll take it." Without another word, she left the shop, the door swinging behind her with a soft thud. The street felt emptier now, colder, as if something had shifted. As she walked down the sidewalk, the weight of her decision began to settle in her chest. She could feel the twinge of regret, but there was no going back. The music box was gone. Her grandmother's treasure was no longer in her hands. But in the back of her mind, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she had just let go of something far more valuable than money. There had been something about the way the shopkeeper had looked at the box, almost as if he recognized it. But no, she told herself, it was nothing. Just an old trinket. There was nothing special about it. As she turned the corner and disappeared from view, a black car with tinted windows pulled up in front of the pawn shop. The man who stepped out was tall, impeccably dressed in a dark suit, with a sharp, defined jawline and a cold, calculating gaze. His steps were deliberate as he walked into the shop, ignoring the sound of the bell above the door. The shopkeeper stood up as he entered, a mixture of reverence and caution in his posture. "Ah, Mr. Hawthorne, always a pleasure," the shopkeeper said, his voice warmer now, as though the man's presence brought an unexpected comfort. The man, Mr. Hawthorne, didn't speak right away. Instead, he walked straight to the counter, his eyes locked on the small music box. "What's this?" he asked in a low, controlled voice. The shopkeeper hesitated, then slowly nodded toward the box. "Just took it in. Not worth much, but there's something about it. I think you might be interested." Mr. Hawthorne didn't wait. He reached for the box, lifting it delicately as though it were fragile. His fingers brushed the engraved lid, and for a moment, he seemed lost in thought. His expression was unreadable. After a few seconds, he turned to the shopkeeper. "How much?" 100. Mr. Hawthorne didn't blink. Without a word, he pulled out a checkbook, wrote a figure on the page, and handed it over. As the shopkeeper took the check, Mr. Hawthorne carefully placed the music box inside a leather bag and walked out without another word. Hours passed before Emily realized that something had gone terribly wrong. She had barely settled into her apartment, her fingers tapping nervously on the edge of her kitchen table, when her phone buzzed with a new notification. It was an email from the pawn shop, a notification that made her blood run cold. Subject: Urgent, your music box. Dear Ms. Emily, we regret to inform you that the item you sold to us has been flagged for immediate return. Please come to our store as soon as possible to collect your item. Thank you. Confusion clouded her mind. Return the box. But she had sold it. She had given it away. Why would they want it back? Before she could make sense of it, another email arrived. This one was from a different address, a private, encrypted message that sent chills through her spine. Subject: About the music box. Emily, you have no idea what you've done. Emily's hands shook as she read the cryptic message, her heart pounding in her chest. What was going on? Who knew about the music box? And why would someone go to such lengths to get it back? But she had no answers. Just questions. And the feeling that her world had just tilted, leaving her in the dark. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a name appeared on the screen, Mr. Hawthorne. A shiver ran down her spine as she stared at the text, "We need to talk. It's important. The story is just beginning. The twists are about to unfold." What could possibly be so important about the music box? Why was it so valuable? And what did Mr. Hawthorne want with Emily? Emily's heart raced as her thumb hovered over the text from Mr. Hawthorne. What was this man's interest in her, in the music box? The last few hours had been a blur of confusion, fear, and disbelief. How had her simple decision to sell an old trinket snowballed into something so mysterious? The moment she saw the words, "We need to talk," she froze. She couldn't just ignore it. It wasn't just a random text. There was something deliberate, something urgent about it. The kind of urgency that pulled you in and made you question everything you thought you knew. Her hands trembled slightly as she typed a quick reply. "What's this about? Why do you want the music box?" She stared at the screen, waiting for a response. The seconds felt like hours. She hadn't expected him to reply so quickly, but then her phone buzzed with a new message. "Meet me at the cafe by your place. I'll be waiting. It's important." No explanation. No details. Just an order. Emily's mind spun. Who was this man, and why was the music box so important to him? Was he connected to the shopkeeper, or was there something more to the box than she had realized? With a sigh, she grabbed her jacket and left her apartment. The night air was cool and crisp, but she hardly noticed as she walked through the quiet streets. Her footsteps echoed in the empty alleyways as she made her way to the café. The café was a small, intimate place with old wooden tables and a warm atmosphere. It was the kind of place where people came to relax, to escape from the noise of the world. The flickering candles on the tables cast soft, golden light on the worn, polished floors. But tonight, there was no warmth in the air. Only a feeling of uncertainty. As Emily entered, her eyes scanned the room. She didn't see Mr. Hawthorne at first, but then she noticed him sitting in the corner, his tall figure barely visible behind the shadows. He was alone, his back straight, his posture rigid. He didn't even look up as she approached. Emily hesitated for a moment before walking over to the table. The man didn't speak immediately, but his eyes flickered up to meet hers. They were dark, calculating, as if he could see right through her. She sat down slowly, her hands clutching the edge of the table. She could feel the heat of his gaze, and it made her uneasy. "I don't know why you're here," Emily said, trying to steady her voice. "But I sold that music box. It's gone." Mr. Hawthorne finally spoke, his voice low and controlled. "You have no idea what you've done, Emily." She frowned, trying to read his expression. "What do you mean?" "I sold it to you. It's your problem now." "It's not just a music box," he said, leaning forward slightly. "It's something far more valuable than you could ever understand. And now, it's in your hands. It has always been in your family's hands." Emily shook her head, her confusion deepening. "My family's hands? It was my grandmother's, yes, but what are you talking about?" Mr. Hawthorne took a deep breath, as if considering how much he should reveal. His fingers drummed lightly on the table, a rhythm that matched Emily's growing anxiety. "You don't know the full story. You don't know what that box represents." "Then tell me," she said, her voice sharp with impatience. "What is it? Why is it so important?" Mr. Hawthorne hesitated, looking around the room briefly before speaking again, his voice barely above a whisper. "The music box is a key. A key to something far greater than you could ever imagine. It has been passed down through generations of your family, always hidden in plain sight. And now, it's yours." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "A key? To what?" "To a legacy. A legacy that has been kept secret for centuries. A legacy that many would kill for." Her mind raced as she processed his words. A legacy? What did he mean? Why would anyone want to kill for an old music box? Mr. Hawthorne leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving hers. "There are forces at play, Emily. Forces that have been searching for that box for years. Your grandmother knew it. That's why she kept it hidden. That's why she never told you about it." Emily's thoughts began to swirl. "But I didn't know. I didn't know anything about this. I thought it was just a keepsake." "It wasn't just a keepsake," he said firmly. "It was always meant to be something more. Your grandmother protected it, and now you've unintentionally opened a door to something you can't close." She blinked, trying to understand. "What do you want from me?" "I don't have the box anymore. I sold it. It's gone." Mr. Hawthorne's eyes narrowed. "It's not gone, Emily. It's never truly gone. It's only a matter of time before you realize that. And when you do, you'll understand what I mean." The air around them seemed to thicken, as if the very room was closing in. Emily could feel the weight of his words pressing against her chest. The music box wasn't just a box. It was a key. But to what? What kind of legacy had her grandmother been protecting? Before she could ask more questions, Mr. Hawthorne stood abruptly. "You'll come to understand. And when you do, you'll wish you had never let it go." Without waiting for her response, he turned and walked toward the door, disappearing into the night. Emily sat at the table, her mind in turmoil. She couldn't make sense of what had just happened. She had come here looking for answers, but now she felt more lost than ever. The music box was just a box, wasn't it? Her grandmother had kept it safe, but why? And why had Mr. Hawthorne said that it was the key to something so dangerous? Her phone buzzed again, interrupting her thoughts. Another email. This time, it wasn't from the pawn shop. It was from an unknown sender. She opened it cautiously, her eyes scanning the cryptic message. Subject: the music box, time is running out. Emily, it's time. They've already found it. They know you're involved now. They won't stop until they have it. You need to get it back. There's no more time to waste. The message ended abruptly, leaving Emily with a growing sense of dread. What was going on? Who was after the box? And what had she gotten herself into? Her phone buzzed again. This time, a number she didn't recognize. She hesitated before answering. "Hello?" she said, her voice shaky. "Emily," a voice crackled on the other end. "It's not safe. You need to listen to me. The box, it's not just an object. It's a key. A key to something they've been searching for. And now, you're in the middle of it." The voice on the other end of the line was frantic, but before Emily could ask who it was, the call abruptly ended. She tried calling back, but the number was disconnected. She was spiraling. She had no answers, only more questions. And now, the feeling of being hunted, the feeling that someone, or something, was coming for her, was consuming her every thought. Back at the pawn shop, the shopkeeper sat at his desk, his hands trembling as he stared at the music box. He had seen the look in Mr. Hawthorne's eyes, and he knew what that meant. The billionaire had finally figured it out. He had finally realized the box's true significance. But what had Emily done? She had unknowingly unleashed something far more dangerous than she could ever comprehend. The shopkeeper reached into his drawer and pulled out an old, worn book. He flipped through the pages until he found the one he was looking for. There, in the faded ink, was the story of the music box. A story that had been passed down through the generations, told in whispers, hidden from the world. And now, it was Emily's turn to learn the truth. Emily's head spun as she left the cafe. Mr. Hawthorne's cryptic words played over and over in her mind, like an ominous drumbeat. The music box was more than just a trinket, more than just an heirloom passed down through generations. It was a key to something hidden, something dangerous. But what was it unlocking? And who else was searching for it? As she walked home, her mind raced with questions. The streets felt strangely empty, and the lights from the passing cars cast long shadows on the pavement. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. That someone was following her. She turned around quickly, but no one was there. Still, the sensation lingered, gnawing at her. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from an unknown number. "You need to meet me. I know what's going on. I can help." Emily stared at the screen for a moment. Who was this? How did they know about the music box? She wasn't sure if she should trust this message, but she had no choice. At this point, anything that promised answers seemed worth exploring. She replied, cautiously, "Who is this?" The reply came almost instantly. "I can't say my name. But you're in danger, Emily. The people who are after the box, they won't stop. You need to find out what it really is. Only then will you understand why they want it so badly." The message felt more urgent now. Emily's hand trembled as she typed her next response. "Where?" The answer came quickly, "I'll send you an address. Be there in an hour. Come alone." Emily had no idea who she was meeting, but she didn't have time to hesitate. She felt like she had no choice. The mystery surrounding the box was getting deeper by the hour, and she needed answers. As she made her way to the address, a growing sense of unease settled in her chest. Every corner she turned seemed darker, every street emptier than the last. She looked over her shoulder again, but there was still no one there. When she arrived at the address, she found herself standing in front of a small, run-down building. It was an old brick structure with cracked windows and a faded sign that read, "Antiques and Curiosities." The kind of place that looked abandoned, but clearly wasn't. The door was slightly ajar, and through the gap, Emily could make out dim light flickering inside. A faint sound of a voice, soft, like a whisper, drifted toward her. Without thinking twice, Emily pushed the door open and stepped inside. The musty smell of old furniture and forgotten relics hit her immediately. The place was filled with dust-covered shelves, stacked high with oddities, old books, tarnished silver, and bizarre trinkets from forgotten eras. But in the back of the room, sitting at a desk beneath a single hanging light, was a man. He looked up when she entered. His face was weathered, his hair streaked with gray, but his eyes, those eyes were sharp, filled with intelligence and something else, something darker. "You came," he said, his voice low, almost gravelly. "I didn't think you would." "I don't know who you are or why I'm here," Emily replied, her voice shaking. "But I need to know what's going on. What's so important about the music box?" The man didn't respond immediately. He studied her for a long moment, his gaze lingering on her face as though trying to gauge whether she could be trusted. Finally, he spoke. "You've been playing with fire, Emily. And now, you've attracted the attention of people who don't play by the same rules as you. The music box you sold, it's not just an object. It's a key, yes, but it's a key to something far more dangerous than you can imagine." Emily's mind raced. She had already heard this before from Mr. Hawthorne, but now this man was saying the same thing, confirming her worst fears. But what did it all mean? What was the box really hiding? "Who are these people?" she asked, desperation creeping into her voice. "Why do they want it?" The man sighed, rubbing his hand over his face. "You need to understand something, Emily. There are ancient organizations, secret societies, hidden powers in this world that control more than you think. And this box, it's tied to them. It holds the key to a secret that could change everything. If the wrong people get their hands on it, they could use it to control the world." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "Control the world?" "Yes," the man replied. "But there's more. The box isn't just any artifact. It's been passed down through generations of your family. Your grandmother knew its significance. She protected it because she knew what it could unlock. What it could unleash." Emily's mind reeled. Her grandmother? She had always known her to be a quiet, unassuming woman, who had lived a peaceful life. She had never mentioned anything about a secret legacy, about anything dangerous. "You're saying my grandmother knew all this?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man nodded grimly. "She did. And so did your mother. They kept it from you, from everyone. But now, you've become part of it. Whether you like it or not." The words hit Emily like a punch to the gut. Her grandmother, the woman she had loved and trusted, had kept secrets from her, secrets that now threatened her life. The weight of the situation began to sink in, and with it, a sense of dread. What if she couldn't handle this? What if the people who wanted the box found her first? "You've got to help me," she said, her voice cracking. "I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start." The man stood up and walked over to a shelf cluttered with books and old artifacts. He pulled down a dusty, leather-bound journal and handed it to Emily. "This belonged to your grandmother," he said. "I'm afraid it holds the answers you're looking for. But you have to be careful. There are people who would kill for this information." Emily's hands shook as she took the journal. It felt heavy in her hands, the leather worn smooth by years of use. She opened the first page, but the writing was faint, nearly impossible to read. "I'll help you," the man said, his voice softening. "But you need to understand that once you step into this, there's no turning back. You'll have enemies, powerful ones. They'll stop at nothing to get that box." The weight of his words hung in the air like a thick fog. Emily knew he was right. There was no going back now. The music box wasn't just a relic, it was a key to something far bigger than she could have ever imagined. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady now. "I want to know the truth." The man gave a single nod and walked over to a table in the corner, where he laid out a large map. It was old, marked with strange symbols, and the edges were frayed. Emily could barely make sense of it. "This map," he said, pointing to the markings, "shows the locations where the box has been hidden over the centuries. It's been moved, protected, and locked away in places you wouldn't believe. And each time it has resurfaced, it's triggered something powerful." Emily leaned closer to the map, her fingers tracing the faded lines. "And the box, what does it unlock?" The man looked at her, his eyes dark. "Power. Knowledge. But most importantly, control. The people after it are dangerous, and they won't stop until they have it. They've been searching for it for years. But now, they know you have it." The room felt colder. The stakes were higher than ever. Emily sat in the dimly lit room, the old leather-bound journal heavy in her hands. The man, whose name she still didn't know, had given her no comfort, no assurances, only the cold truth. The people after the box were relentless, and they had been looking for it for generations. But what terrified Emily more than the unknown enemies was the truth about her own family. Her grandmother had known all along. She had kept the box hidden, keeping its secrets to herself, even when Emily had believed her to be just an ordinary woman. She had believed her grandmother's life to be simple, filled with quiet afternoons of tea and knitting. But now, Emily was learning that the quiet life her grandmother had led was just a mask for something far darker. Taking a deep breath, Emily opened the journal, trying to focus on the faint, delicate handwriting on the yellowed pages. The words were hard to make out, but she could tell they were written with care, almost as though her grandmother had known that someone would one day need to decipher them. Emily traced her fingers across the words, reading them aloud softly as the man watched her closely from across the room. The first few pages were filled with strange symbols, cryptic phrases, and mentions of something called the Eternal Key. Emily felt her heart race. It seemed like the box wasn't just an object, it was part of something much bigger. A key to what? To a power beyond her comprehension? She flipped the page, and the next passage seemed to be a warning. The box is not to be opened lightly. It will reveal the truth, but truth comes at a cost. Those who seek it without understanding may be consumed by it. Consumed by it. The words echoed in her mind as she looked up at the man. "What does that mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked over to the map on the table, carefully rolling it out. He pointed to several locations marked in red ink, places far from where Emily had ever been, places that seemed to be scattered across the world. "These are the places the box has been hidden over time," the man explained, his finger tracing the locations. "Each time it resurfaced, it triggered something, some kind of event. But those events were always controlled. Always watched." Emily felt her stomach drop. "Controlled by who?" "By the people after it," he replied, his voice grim. "The ones who would do anything to possess the power that it holds. They are not just seeking the box, they are seeking control." Emily's mind was racing. The weight of the situation was almost too much to bear. The box wasn't just an artifact, it was a symbol of something much bigger, a struggle for power that had spanned centuries. And now, she was caught in the middle of it. "What is the eternal key?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man looked at her with a mixture of pity and concern. "The eternal key is more than just a name. It's a force. A power that has been hidden from the world for millennia. Your grandmother must have known it was time for you to find it, to unlock it. But be warned, Emily, unlocking it means facing the truth, no matter how dark it may be." Emily shivered at the thought. What truth? What could possibly be so dangerous that her own family had chosen to keep it hidden for so long? She turned back to the journal, desperate to find more answers. As she flipped through the pages, a strange symbol caught her eye. It was drawn in ink that seemed darker than the rest, as though it had been added much later. She traced it with her finger, a key, but unlike any key she had ever seen. The design was intricate, almost alive, as if the symbol itself was pulsating. She leaned in closer to examine it, and that's when she saw the next page. It was a drawing, an old, faded map of what appeared to be a hidden location. But this map was different. It wasn't a place she recognized. It was a map of a vast underground complex, with several rooms and passages leading deep into the earth. At the center of the map was an X, marked with the same strange symbol she had seen before. "This is where it all began," the man said, his voice suddenly softer. The key, the eternal key, was hidden there, in a place known only to a few. But over time, the knowledge was lost, and the box became the only piece of the puzzle left to find. Emily's pulse quickened. "Where is this place?" "It's a place that has been buried for centuries," the man replied, his eyes narrowing. "But I can tell you this, there are people who would kill to get their hands on that map. People who are willing to destroy anyone who stands in their way." Fear gripped Emily's heart. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. She wasn't just dealing with a powerful object, she was dealing with an ancient secret that could change the course of history. And the people after it were ruthless. She closed the journal and stood up, her body trembling. "What do I do now?" she asked, her voice barely audible. The man met her gaze, his eyes dark with understanding. "You need to go to the place on that map," he said, his voice firm. "You need to find the eternal key before they do. If you don't, it will be too late." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. She had no idea where this journey would take her, but one thing was certain, there was no turning back now. The danger was real, and it was closing in on her. The man handed her a small, metal key. It was old, covered in rust, and looked like it had been through countless hands. "This will open the door," he said. "But be prepared. What you find on the other side will change everything." With a deep breath, Emily nodded. She didn't know what she was walking into, but she knew she had to do it. The box, the journal, the map, everything had led her to this point. The truth was out there, waiting for her. But the closer she got to it, the more dangerous it became. She took the key from the man's outstretched hand, her fingers brushing against his. It felt cold, heavy with the weight of everything that was about to unfold. With one final glance at the man, she turned and walked out the door, determined to follow the clues and uncover the truth, no matter where it led her. The sound of her footsteps echoed in the silence, and for a moment, it felt like she was the only one left in the world. But she knew that wasn't true. Someone was following her. Someone was always watching. And they would stop at nothing to get what she had. Emily had never been more terrified in her life. With the metal key clutched tightly in her hand, she had set off to find the place on the map. Her journey had taken her far from the life she once knew, and the further she traveled, the more the world seemed to change. Every step felt like she was being drawn into a mystery that was far bigger than she could comprehend. As she arrived at the remote location marked on the map, she found herself standing in front of a long-forgotten mansion. The building looked abandoned, like it hadn't been touched in centuries. Ivy crept up the sides, and the windows were dark, shrouded in the dust of time. But there was something about it, something that told her this place was not just a relic of the past. It was alive with secrets. The road that led to the mansion was eerily quiet. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end as she stepped out of her car, the gravel crunching underfoot. She glanced around, but there was nothing to see, just the mansion and the barren landscape stretching for miles. Taking a deep breath, she walked toward the large iron doors. They were massive, covered in rust and corrosion. But the key in her hand seemed to hum with a strange energy, as though it were calling her to use it. She felt the weight of the decision she was about to make. Once the door opened, there would be no turning back. With a trembling hand, she inserted the key into the lock. It turned with a soft click, and the heavy door creaked open. She hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding, but then she stepped inside. The interior of the mansion was even more haunting than the outside. The air was thick with dust, and the walls were lined with old paintings, most of them faded, their once vibrant colors now almost unrecognizable. The floor creaked with every step, and the silence was overwhelming. Emily had expected the mansion to feel empty, but it didn't. It felt as though something was lurking just out of sight. Something ancient. Something waiting. She pulled the map from her bag, studying it carefully. The place she had come to find was hidden deep within the mansion, beneath the floors. The map had shown her a series of rooms, but the last room was the one that had her heart racing, the one marked with the symbol of the eternal key. The hallway stretched out before her, leading to a grand staircase that disappeared into shadow. The walls seemed to close in around her as she walked, and the feeling of being watched only intensified. She turned a corner and entered a small, dimly lit room at the back of the house. The walls of this room were covered in strange symbols, the same symbols that had appeared in her grandmother's journal. It was clear now that the symbols were not just random, they had meaning, and they were guiding her toward something. Her pulse quickened as she noticed a faint outline on the floor, like a door that had been hidden for years. She knelt down, brushing away the dust, and found a metal plate, worn and aged by time. The map had led her here. Taking a deep breath, Emily pressed on the plate. The ground beneath her feet shifted, and slowly, a hidden doorway slid open, revealing a staircase that spiraled downward into darkness. The air was cool as she descended into the unknown. Each step felt like it took her deeper into the heart of the mystery. The stairs seemed endless, and the silence was suffocating. But the further she went, the more certain she became that she was close to something monumental. At the bottom of the staircase, she found herself in a vast chamber. The walls were lined with old stone, and the floor was covered in ancient dust. In the center of the room was a large, ornate pedestal, and atop the pedestal lay a stone box. It was unlike any box Emily had ever seen. The surface was carved with intricate patterns, and the same symbol, the one she had seen on the map and in the journal, was engraved on the top. The eternal key. It was real. It was right there in front of her. Emily approached the pedestal, her breath coming in short gasps. She knew that unlocking the box would reveal the truth she had been seeking, but what truth? What would it cost her to find it? Before she could make a move, a voice echoed through the chamber, cold and menacing. "You shouldn't have come here." Emily spun around, her heart racing. The voice was deep, almost guttural, and it seemed to come from every direction at once. It sent chills down her spine. From the shadows emerged a figure, tall, cloaked in black, with a face hidden beneath a hood. The figure moved toward her slowly, almost deliberately, as though the air itself parted for them. "Who are you?" Emily demanded, her voice shaking. The figure didn't answer immediately. Instead, they stepped closer, and Emily could see their eyes, cold, emotionless, and filled with something darker than hatred. "I am the guardian," the figure finally said, their voice like gravel. "The box is not for you. It was never meant to be found. The words hit Emily like a punch to the gut. She took a step back, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on her. But I found it. It's mine. The Guardian laughed, a sound that sent a shiver through Emily's bones. No. You don't understand. The box is not something to possess. It is a power that has been hidden for a reason. If you open it, there will be consequences you cannot imagine. Emily's mind raced. She had come so far, and now this mysterious guardian was telling her it was all a mistake? What do you want? She demanded. Why are you trying to stop me? The guardian's face remained hidden in the shadows, but Emily could sense the intensity of their gaze. It is not what I want, the guardian said quietly. It is what the world will lose if you open that box. You will unleash something you cannot control. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. This was it, the moment of truth. She could open the box and learn the secrets it held, or she could walk away and leave the mystery unresolved. But was she ready to face whatever lay inside? The room seemed to close in around her, and for a moment, she felt the weight of history bearing down on her. This wasn't just about her anymore. The box had been hidden for a reason. And if she opened it, everything she thought she knew would change. The Guardian took a step closer, their presence overwhelming. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Turn back now, before it's too late. Emily's mind was in turmoil. Her hands shook, and she could feel the heat of the box calling to her. She had come this far. She had no choice but to continue. But as her fingers brushed against the cold surface of the box, she heard a noise, a faint clicking sound, behind her. The faint clicking sound echoed through the chamber, sharp and eerie. Emily froze, her hand still resting on the cold surface of the stone box. Her heart hammered in her chest, a mix of fear, anticipation, and confusion racing through her veins. The air around her felt thicker, as if the very walls were closing in. The Guardian's gaze bore into her, a silent warning lingering in the space between them. The clicking noise grew louder, and with a sudden jolt, the stone pedestal beneath the box shifted. It wasn't a natural movement, no, this was something mechanical, deliberate. Emily's pulse quickened as she realized that something inside the box was stirring. The Guardian's voice, deep and commanding, broke the silence. You shouldn't have touched it. The words were more of a plea than a threat, but Emily could see the underlying urgency. She could feel it in her bones, the sense that time was running out. There was no turning back now. Tell me what's inside it, she demanded, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her. What is it? What have I awakened? The Guardian took another step forward, their presence overwhelming. You've awakened a force, they said, their voice carrying an air of finality. A force that should never be unleashed. The box is a prison, not a treasure. Inside, it holds the key to a power so ancient and dangerous that even those who created it feared it. Emily's grip on the box tightened. She had come so far, too far to back down now. Her curiosity, her need for answers, overwhelmed everything else. I don't care about the consequences anymore, she said, her voice tinged with a mix of desperation and defiance. I need to know what's inside. With a final, almost reluctant gesture, the Guardian stepped back into the shadows. Then you will have to face the truth of it, all of it. There is no going back. Emily swallowed hard, her fingers now trembling as she unlocked the intricate latch that held the box shut. The moment the lock clicked open, the room seemed to shift. The air became heavy, and the temperature dropped, sending a chill down her spine. With a deep breath, she lifted the lid. What she saw inside was not what she had expected. The box did not contain jewels or gold, nor did it hold a map to some lost treasure. Instead, it was a simple object, an ancient, intricately carved stone tablet. The tablet shimmered faintly, as though it were alive, pulsing with a strange energy. For a moment, Emily simply stared at it, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The symbols carved into the tablet were the same ones she had seen before, the ones in her grandmother's journal, the ones that had haunted her dreams. But now, they seemed to glow with an intensity she could feel deep within her chest. It was as though they were speaking to her. That tablet. The guardian began, their voice a low whisper. It is the key to an ancient civilization, one that predates all human history. A civilization that vanished long ago, leaving behind nothing but their knowledge. And this tablet, it holds their most dangerous secret. Emily's mind raced. The tablet was a relic, a piece of something far older than anything she could have imagined. But the question remained, why had it been hidden away? And what was this secret that had been so carefully guarded? The guardians stepped closer, their expression grave. You cannot understand it yet. The secrets within that tablet are not meant for mortals. They were meant to stay buried, lost to time. And now, because of you, they have been awakened. Emily's thoughts swirled as she reached for the tablet. The moment her fingers brushed its surface, a flash of light erupted from the stone, blinding her. She staggered backward, her heart racing as the light filled the room, overwhelming her senses. For what felt like an eternity, she was lost in the brightness. When the light finally faded, she blinked, her vision adjusting to the dimness of the room. But everything had changed. The walls, once cold and stone, now seemed alive, covered in swirling patterns, shifting and moving as if the very room was breathing. The tablet had not just revealed secrets, it had unlocked something. You've done it, the guardian said, their voice no longer filled with warning, but with something darker, something more fearful. You've triggered the awakening. The civilization that created the tablet, they were not gods. They were something far worse. Emily felt a cold shiver run down her spine. What do you mean? The guardian's face remained hidden beneath the hood, but their voice trembled. They were beings from beyond our world. Their knowledge, their power, was not of this earth. And now that the tablet has been opened, the floodgates are open. They will come. Come. Emily repeated, her voice barely a whisper. Who will come? Not who, the guardian corrected her, their tone grim. What? The room seemed to darken as a deep rumble echoed from beneath the floor. The ground shook beneath Emily's feet, and the air crackled with energy. She could feel it now, a presence stirring in the depths of the earth. It was ancient, powerful, and terrifying. The guardian raised their hand, a gesture of warning. You have awakened them. And now, they will seek what they left behind, the power of the tablet. And you are the one who has brought it all back. Emily's mind reeled. She had thought she was searching for answers. But now she realized that her search had only unleashed a terrible force, one that could not be contained. The rumbling grew louder, more intense. And the air became thick with an oppressive force. Emily could feel the temperature drop even further, and her breath became visible in the cold. The walls seemed to close in, the swirling patterns on them moving faster, as if the entire mansion was alive, reacting to what had just been set in motion. Suddenly, the guardians stepped forward, their hand reaching out to her. You need to leave, they urged, their voice urgent. The tablet must be sealed again before it's too late. If you do not, everything will be lost. But it was too late. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the ceiling above them cracked. In the distance, Emily could hear something moving, a sound like a low, guttural growl. It was coming closer. You can't stop it, the guardian said, their voice filled with resignation. The power has been awakened. There is no turning back. Emily looked down at the tablet, the strange symbols now glowing brighter than ever. It was pulling her in, urging her to understand, to unlock the final secret. But the weight of the decision pressed down on her. She couldn't undo what she had done. She had opened the box. She had awakened the force. The ground shook violently, and Emily staggered, her mind spinning. She looked to the guardian, her voice trembling as she asked, "What happens now?" The guardian's expression softened, almost sorrowful. "Now, you survive. You do whatever it takes to keep the secret from falling into the wrong hands. Because those who seek it will stop at nothing to control it." The rumbling reached a deafening crescendo as the mansion began to collapse around them. Emily's heart pounded, her thoughts racing. She had only one choice left, to escape. Without thinking, she grabbed the tablet and ran, the walls crumbling behind her. The mansion was falling apart, the air thick with dust and debris. But somewhere deep inside her, Emily knew that the journey was far from over. What she had awakened could not be undone. And as the ground shook beneath her feet, she realized that the true mystery was not in what she had discovered, but in what she would do next.